There's this feeling you can't explain, like your life is full, but nothing sticks. You scroll, tap, watch, consume, but it never lands. It never stays. You laugh at a reel, you click another video, you open 5 tabs, leave them all open. And somewhere between stimulation and silence, you notice it. You're exhausted, but from the inside out, that quiet burnout you carry, it's not just mental fatigue. It's not just stress. It's the side effect of living in a world that's constantly flooding your brain with sound, with color, with offers, with updates. And over time, all that input starts to do something strange. It makes you feel less, not more. Because when everything is designed to stimulate you, your nervous system stops responding. Your capacity to feel joy, focus, wonder, even rest, gets dulled by the weight of constant something. You're not weak, you're overstimulated. And the difference matters. In this video, we're going to unravel the invisible damage of too much input and why it's making you feel emotionally flat, even when life should feel good. We'll pull in insights from neuroscience, including Dr. Andrew Huberman, to understand what dopamine overload does to your brain's reward system and how it's quietly rewiring your relationship with pleasure, peace, and meaning. But more than that, I want to show you something you may have forgotten. You were never meant to live in permanent noise. You were built for presence, for subtlety, for stillness that heals, not silence that scares. If nothing feels good anymore, it's not because you're broken. It's because you've never been taught how to come back from too much. Let's change that. You ever notice how joy used to come easier? When you were a kid, a sunny afternoon or a random song on the radio could light you up. Now it takes a curated playlist, perfect lighting, 5 tabs open, and even then, it barely registers. There's a reason for that. And it's not nostalgia, it's biology. Your nervous system wasn't built for constant stimulation. It was designed for contrast. Moments of alertness, followed by recovery. Input, then integration. But modern life doesn't offer contrast. It offers excess, constant engagement, non-stop input. And over time, that rewires how your body and brain interpret pleasure, and even how they interpret peace. Most people think stress means working too hard or feeling overwhelmed. But there's a quieter kind of stress that's far more dangerous. It's sensory saturation. Not loud like anxiety, just emotionally flat. You're not crying, you're not panicking, you're just not feeling much of anything at all. This is what neuroscientists call hedonic adaptation. You keep chasing small hits of pleasure and your brain keeps adjusting until nothing feels as good as it used to. That TikTok that made you laugh last week, now it barely makes you blink. That new show everyone's obsessed with, you open your phone mid-episode without even noticing. Your system is overloaded. Your baseline for stimulation is now so high, real life can't compete. And so real life starts to feel muted. This is why simple things, like reading a book, sitting in the sun, even just being still, feel almost intolerable now. Not because they're boring, but because your overstimulated brain can't find a hook in them anymore. And it's not just digital stuff. Think about your average day. Coffee with sugar, emails before you're even out of bed, music while you shower, podcasts in the car, snacks at the desk, 5 platforms fighting for your eyes. Then you wonder why peace feels unreachable. This isn't judgment, it's recognition. We're all swimming in it. The collapse of joy doesn't happen in a breakdown. It happens slowly, invisibly, while everything looks fine on the outside. But here's the truth no one tells you. When your nervous system is overstimulated, it shuts down sensation. Not just pain, but pleasure too. Joy, wonder, connection. They all come through a nervous system that's calm enough to receive them. And most of us aren't calm. We're just quiet, on the edge of emotional numbness with a smile. The first step back, it's not cutting everything. It's noticing the weight of too much. The fact that you're still here, listening, maybe that's the first signal your nervous system is sending. Not in words, but in silence that's finally being heard. Dopamine is not the pleasure chemical. That's the first myth, according to Dr. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist at Stanford and host of the Huberman Lab podcast. Dopamine isn't about feeling good. It's about pursuit, motivation, drive. It tells your brain, this is worth chasing. But when that system is overused, artificially triggered all day, every day, it collapses in on itself. Here's how it happens. Let's say you wake up and check your phone. Dopamine spike. You grab a coffee with sugar. Another hit. You turn on music, scroll TikTok, eat while watching YouTube. multitask through your morning, and each one of those little moments, more dopamine. Your brain starts adapting, fast, because dopamine doesn't just rise and always crashes afterward. And the more often you spike it with cheap stimulation, the more your baseline drops. Dr. Huberman explains this as dopamine depletion, not in a dramatic way, but gradual and invisible. Your baseline pleasure slowly fades. What used to feel exciting now feels dull. What used to feel peaceful now feels boring. And worst of all, when the brain adjusts to constant highs, it stops responding to real ones. This is why you open your phone even when there's nothing to check. Why you binge shows but feel nothing halfway through. Why silence makes you itch. Because your brain has forgotten how to wait for dopamine and only knows how to demand it. But here's what no one tells you. Real joy doesn't come from a spike. It comes from balance, from a regulated system that can actually register pleasure without chasing it like a drug. And in a society where dopamine is handed out like candy, every swipe like ping reward, you've likely never been taught how to protect your baseline. Imagine this. You spend your day getting 100 microbursts of stimulation, but none of them require effort, risk, or meaning. Your brain adapts, and over time, life feels flat unless you're overstimulating yourself again. That's not addiction in the traditional sense. It's neurochemical exhaustion, and it's not your fault. Your brain's doing exactly what it was designed to do: conserve energy, pursue rewards. But the environment you're living in, it's hacking those systems nonstop. That's why dopamine awareness isn't a productivity trend, it's survival. Not just to get more done, but to actually feel again. When Dr. Huberman talks about resetting the dopamine system, he doesn't talk about quitting everything forever. He talks about restoring contrast, letting your brain return to a baseline where real life, a walk, a conversation, a sunset, can feel rewarding again. Because it's not that you've lost the ability to enjoy, it's just been buried under layers of artificial pursuit. And the good news is, your brain can come back. But only if you stop flooding it long enough to remember what real joy feels like. You probably don't think of yourself as addicted. You're functioning. You show up to work. You pay your bills. You're not wasting away in a dark room. But there's a different kind of addiction, quieter, cleaner, that's slowly eating away at your ability to feel. It doesn't look like chaos. It looks like always needing something. Your hand reaching for your phone at red lights, opening Instagram while your friend goes to the bathroom, watching YouTube while eating lunch, checking 5 apps before you even get out of bed. And you tell yourself, it's normal. Everyone does it. But let's be honest, but how do you feel after? Not alive, not rested, not connected, just numb. This is the kind of addiction no one talks about. Not to pleasure, but to stimulation itself. Not because it brings joy, but because it keeps you from feeling the quiet discomfort underneath. We've been trained to fear silence. Not by accident, by design. Apps, platforms, ads. They don't just fight for your attention. They shape your baseline. They convince your brain that constant input is the new normal. And now anything slower, real conversations, reading, even just sitting outside, feels empty. But it's not those things that are empty. It's your sensory system that's overfed and undernourished. Imagine this. You get home from work, mind buzzing, body tired. You don't feel like doing nothing, so you turn on Netflix. Not because there's something you want to watch, just to fill the air. You scroll while the show plays. You grab food. Maybe a drink. You tell yourself it's self-care. But by the end of the night, you feel even more drained. That's not rest. That's overstimulation disguised as downtime. And your nervous system knows the difference. The worst part? This loop doesn't feel dramatic, it feels normal. And that's why it's so dangerous. You start to feel disconnected. From people. From joy. Even from yourself. You stop looking forward to things. You stop feeling the little highs. You forget what anticipation feels like. You confuse distraction with peace. This is emotional erosion. And it doesn't hit like a crash. It fades you out slowly until life feels like a blur. But here's the thing. Your brain isn't broken. It's doing exactly what it was trained to do. Seek fast hits, avoid discomfort. But underneath that pattern is a hunger. A craving not for more content, but for presence, for meaning, for something real. You miss looking into someone's eyes and actually feeling there. You miss driving without background noise. You miss laughing at something stupid without needing to post it. That ache you carry? That's your nervous system begging for contrast. For space. For silence that heals, not scares. And the fix isn't radical. It starts with noticing. Next time you feel the urge to open something, just pause. Feel that micro panic, that pull to fill the space? That's where the addiction lives. And that's also where you begin to take your attention back. Because the truth is this, you were never addicted to the apps. You were addicted to avoiding yourself. But once you make space, even a little, joy starts to return. Not loud, but deep and real. Picture this, you're pouring water into a glass, one pour, then another, then juice, coffee, wine, energy drink. It overflows, it mixes, it muddies, and eventually you're no longer drinking anything, just liquid chaos. Different tastes, no clarity, just overload. That's your brain on overstimulation. And it explains something people rarely talk about. Why life feels so full but nothing ever feels fulfilling. You scroll through dozens of posts, watch 5 creators in one sitting, text 3 people at once, and still, deep down, feels strangely hollow. Why? Because stimulation isn't connection, it's just input. And when your system is constantly absorbing, without space to digest, it gets saturated. Emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. Your attention becomes fragmented. You feel pulled in 10 directions, yet none of them actually move you. This is why even the things you used to love feel different now. The hike that used to ground you, you check your phone halfway up. That deep conversation with a friend, interrupted by a buzz. Even watching a movie, you rewind scenes because your brain wandered mid-sentence. It's not lack of discipline, it's cognitive saturation. Your mind isn't empty, it's overfilled, but not with meaning, with microstimuli. Think about your average weekday. Slack notifications while answering emails, Spotify playing while you're on Zoom, Reels while you cook, group chats during dinner, late-night YouTube while your eyes burn. Sleep, broken and unrefreshing, followed by more input before your feet touch the floor. All of this stimulation, and still you feel numb. And that numbness comes with shame, because you tell yourself, I have everything. Why can't I feel anything? But this isn't about having too little. It's about never letting your system breathe. You've filled every corner of your attention with noise. And now, even silence feels foreign. But here's the shift. Saturation isn't just a metaphor, it's neurological. Dr. Andrew Huberman explains that sensory overload doesn't just affect focus. It dulls your reward system, making real life feel flat, even when it's meaningful. It's not that life got worse. It's that your ability to register its depth got blurred. The solution isn't withdrawal from everything. It's creating space, gently, like letting that glass settle, pouring some out, allowing clarity to return. Start small, drive in silence, eat without a screen. Let a moment be just a moment, no sharing, no editing, no reacting. You'll feel resistance. But if you stick with it, you'll notice something strange start to happen. Simple things begin to land again. A breeze, a laugh, a deep breath. That's not magic. That's your nervous system healing from saturation. That's you returning to life, drop by drop. Most people don't realize they're numb. Because emotional numbness doesn't announce itself. It doesn't come with alarms or breakdowns. It sneaks in quietly, wearing the mask of, I'm fine. And that's exactly what makes it dangerous. You wake up and feel neutral. Not sad, not excited, just blank. You go through the motions. You reply to texts. You check your feeds. You do what you're supposed to do. But deep down, it feels like you're living next to your life, not inside it. This isn't laziness. This isn't just being tired. This is what happens when your nervous system, overstimulated for too long, starts shutting down your emotional responsiveness, not to protect you from pain, but to keep you functioning through overload. And the signs are everywhere. You just need to know how to read them. Here are a few. You find yourself watching content on double speed and still feel impatient. You forget what you just read, even though your eyes were moving. You scroll endlessly, not because you're curious, but because you're avoiding stillness. You laugh, but it doesn't touch you. You cry less, or not at all. You find joy, tiring, and silence. It doesn't feel peaceful anymore. It feels empty, like something's wrong. These are not random glitches, these are signals. Tiny emotional red flags that your system is overcapacitated. Think about this. You used to feel wonder watching the sky shift colors at sunset. Now you take a photo of it for your story and scroll away before the moment even lands. You used to love music. Now it plays in the background while you do three other things, and you don't even remember the lyrics. It's not that you've become shallow. It's that your brain has adapted to survive constant input, and in that adaptation, it's tuned out the subtle, slower emotions. This is what Dr. Andrew Huberman and others describe as emotional flattening from dopaminergic desensitization. Your highs are manufactured, your lows are avoided, and the in-between, at where most of life happens, becomes unreachable. But here's the deeper pain. When you can't feel deeply, you start to doubt your own aliveness. You're surrounded by people, content, options, and still feel disconnected, like you're on the outside of your own experience. And that's when the self-talk begins. Why can't I just enjoy this? Why am I always tired? What's wrong with me? Nothing. Absolutely nothing is wrong with you. What's wrong is the environment, the pace, the constant flood of micro-distractions pretending to be meaningful. And when you're emotionally numb, you stop trusting your instincts. You overthink everything. You delay decisions. You second-guess your feelings. Because if you're not feeling much, how do you know what's real? But awareness changes everything. The moment you recognize numbness for what it is, not a personality flaw but a nervous system response, you reclaim power. You can start gently tuning back in. Start asking, what used to move me? What moments made me feel truly present? What can I do slower today? Not better, just slower, so I can actually feel it. Because numbness doesn't disappear through more effort. It dissolves when you create enough space for sensation to return. And it will. Not all at once. Not with fireworks, but with subtle sparks that remind you, you're still here, still capable, still alive underneath the static. There's a truth we've forgotten, buried under years of rushing, multitasking, chasing more. The human brain was built for rhythm, not speed. Your nervous system doesn't thrive in chaos. It was designed to feel safety in space, in breath, in pauses, in moments that don't need to be filled. But somewhere along the way, we replaced slowness with weakness, stillness with laziness, simplicity with not doing enough. And now, we're paying the price. The inability to feel joy deeply, to sit with ourselves without discomfort, to experience calm without checking something. It isn't just emotional. It's neurological exhaustion. Dr. Andrew Huberman explains that overstimulation pushes your brain into a chronic, alert state. You're not in fight or flight. You're in something worse, hyperstimulated numbness, a place where nothing's wrong but nothing feels right either. Slowness is the antidote, not because it's trendy, because it's restorative. When you slow down, your brain gets a chance to recalibrate. It lowers cortisol. It increases oxytocin and serotonin, chemicals tied to trust, contentment, and real connection. It lets your reward system cool off, so small pleasures become visible again. Think of it like taste buds. If you eat super salty food every day, you stop noticing subtle flavors. But take a break, and suddenly, even a piece of fruit feels rich. Your emotional system works the same way. When life is too loud, you stop feeling the soft stuff. And that's where meaning usually lives. You want real examples? Here's what simplicity looks like in real life. You take a walk without a podcast, and halfway through you actually hear your thoughts again. You sit with someone and resist the urge to fill every pause, and suddenly, the silence feels safe, not awkward. You drink your coffee on the porch, no phone, just air, and for the first time in weeks, your breath slows on its own. These moments don't seem impressive on paper, but they do something radical. They rebuild your internal rhythm, and with it, your sensitivity. You stop needing higher highs. You start noticing quiet joy again. You stop chasing peace. You start inhabiting it. This isn't about quitting life or becoming minimalist. It's about subtracting the noise that keeps you numb, so the real you can come back online. Because your body remembers how to feel. It just needs the chance. Slowness gives it that chance. Not once, not on a retreat, but moment by moment, when you choose presence over pace. It's not dramatic, but it is healing, and it's always available, if you're willing to slow down enough to notice. Boredom gets a bad reputation. We treat it like something to avoid at all costs. We fill every gap, every pause, every second of silence, as if emptiness itself is a threat. But what if boredom isn't the enemy? What if it's a doorway? See, boredom only feels painful when we've forgotten how to be with ourselves. It's not that nothing is happening. It's that your brain is detoxing from constant novelty. You're not bored. You're rebalancing. And that's uncomfortable at first. Because here's the truth no one talks about. Boredom is the withdrawal symptom of overstimulation. When you stop feeding your brain non-stop input, it rebels. It panics. It itches. Not because you're missing out, but because your nervous system forgot how to sit still. You notice it in the smallest moments. Waiting in line without pulling out your phone. Sitting at a red light and not checking messages. Eating a meal without something playing in the background. These moments feel unbearable not because they're empty, but because you've trained your mind to crave distraction like oxygen. But what happens if you stay? What happens if you breathe through the boredom instead of fleeing from it? Here's what happens. Your mind begins to clear. Your attention stops scattering, and something rare shows up. Clarity. Studies from Neuroscience, including work referenced by Dr. Andrew Huberman, show that stillness activates the default mode network in the brain, a system linked to imagination, memory consolidation, and self-reflection. In other words, when you're doing nothing, your brain is actually doing something essential. It's reorganizing, healing, reconnecting dots you didn't even know were frayed. And here's the paradox. The more you avoid boredom, the less capable you are of experiencing joy. Because joy isn't a high-energy emotion. It's subtle, gentle. It lives in places you can only access when your system is quiet enough to receive it. Joy doesn't compete with chaos. It waits underneath it. But don't just take this as theory. Try this. Sit on your front steps tonight. No music, no scrolling. Just watch the sky. Let your body get restless. Let your thoughts bounce around. And stay. You might feel weird, agitated, but something strange will start to happen. You'll notice your breath, the sound of wind, the weight of your body on the ground, and then a flicker of calm, maybe even a moment of lightness. That's joy, real joy, returning, not loud, not dramatic, but honest. And it came through the doorway you used to call boredom. The next time you feel that itch to escape the silence, try staying. Not to be productive, not to prove anything, just to remember what your life feels like, without noise in the way. Because stillness isn't empty. It's full of everything you've been too distracted to feel. At this point, you're probably not just thinking, you're feeling it. That quiet ache, that fatigue that doesn't come from doing too much, but from processing too much. From never letting your brain or your soul catch a breath. So now the question becomes, how do you come back? How do you start feeling things again? Not just reacting, but actually experiencing? The answer isn't dramatic. It doesn't require quitting your job, deleting your accounts, or moving to a cabin in the woods. It starts smaller than that. It starts with space, with creating just enough room inside your overstimulated system for sensation to return. Here's a simple 3-step reset you can begin today. No hype, no pressure, just truth. 1. Light dopamine fast. 48 hours. This isn't punishment. It's a recalibration. For the next 2 days, cut back on low-effort, high-reward stimulation. No reels, no TikTok, no sugar bombs, no loud playlists. Doesn't mean silence or boredom. It means reclaiming the quality of your inputs. Let your brain lower its baseline. Go analog when you can. Read a physical book. Go for a walk without your phone. Eat without a screen. You'll feel withdrawal at first. The itch to check, scroll, snack. That's your system detoxing. And that's good. You're not depriving yourself. You're giving your pleasure system a chance to reset. 2. Sensory reintegration. Slow and real. Once you've cleared some space, reintroduce stimulation with intention. This is where you retrain your nervous system to notice the subtle again. Play one song, just one. Sit with it. Eyes closed. Notice the instruments, the rhythm, the feeling in your chest. Go outside, not for exercise, but to look around. Feel the texture of the air. Watch how light moves on surfaces. This isn't spiritual fluff, it's neuroscience. You're restoring sensory sensitivity, one layer at a time. 3. Daily stillness ritual. 10 minutes of nothing. Every day, ideally morning or evening, give yourself 10 minutes of nothing. No phone, no tasks. Just sit, breathe, eyes open or closed, doesn't matter. The goal isn't to meditate, it's to exist without input. To signal to your nervous system, it's safe to be here, nothing needs to happen right now. This activates your parasympathetic system, the part responsible for true rest, regulation, and healing. At first, your mind will resist. You'll feel restless, annoyed, bored, but stick with it. Because over time, this small window becomes a portal. A place where emotions can rise again. where thoughts untangle, where joy, the real kind, starts to return. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a new rhythm, a new way of relating to time, attention, and sensation. And the truth is, it doesn't take long. Most people feel the shift within days, not a massive explosion, just a flicker. I'm feeling again. I'm here. And once you feel that even once, and you'll remember what you've been missing. Not more content, not more stimulation, just the space to come home to yourself. If nothing feels good anymore, if silence makes you anxious, if joy feels like something you remember, not something you live, you're not alone. And you're not broken. You're saturated. You've been running on overdrive, mentally, emotionally, neurochemically. And your system is doing what it's supposed to do when overwhelmed. It shuts down feeling to keep you functional. But you were never meant to just function. You were meant to feel. And the beautiful thing is, and you still can, you don't need to fix yourself. You just need to stop flooding your senses long enough to hear what your body's been whispering all along. Slow down. Make space. Let me come back. Because joy doesn't scream. It doesn't knock hard. It returns softly, when the noise quiets and the mind clears. And when it does, that simple moment, a glance, a breeze, a laugh, will hit deeper than all the artificial highs you've been chasing. So start small, breathe deeper today, be present for one meal, let one pause stay empty, then do it again tomorrow. No pressure, no perfection, just presence, one quiet step at a time. When was the last time something simple made you feel something real? Drop it in the comments. Your moment might remind someone else what's possible. Try a mini reset. No phone for your first hour tomorrow. One walk without headphones. 10 minutes of stillness before bed. Then come back here and tell us what changed. If this video stirred something in you, maybe your system's already starting to heal. So don't lose the thread. Subscribe, stay close, and let's rebuild your sensitivity together.